This episode of Dosed is brought to you by Oblak Caps. So Oblak Caps, they provided refuge for me when I was stuck in the classic scroll hole on Instagram. And yellow being my favorite color, their latest cap, which I'm wearing today, Phosphate, totally jumped out at me. So I ended up ordering it from Instagram or Amazon, I think it was at that point, with if I'm honest, no expectations. When it arrived though, bam, oh my God, like the quality, the style, the colors, like really pop. And for me, comparing this to other caps that I've recently purchased, these are, if not the best, one of the best on the market at the moment. But if I'm honest, that's not, the style and everything is not really what captured me. It's when I read their mission, which I'm going to read out to you guys. That was really, it just grabbed me by the nuts. And their mission statement is, our goal is to change the concept that people have of being a black sheep. Many look at these people as displaced, misfits, or those who do not fit into the current mold set. But we see them as real people, without fear of what people say, people who are true to their values and don't conform to the status quo. Harnessing this power as their innate gift, dedicating it to what they love, creating their own path for their life. What a fucking statement. For me, that was like, wow, this is incredible. And I think if you are feeling that and you want to embrace your inner black sheep, go and buy an Oblak cap. We also have a discount code because they are proud. We're proud to be to having them as our sponsors. So if you keep listening through the show, I will drop the discount code so you get money off these awesome caps. Evan, welcome to the show, man.
Jamie, my man, thanks very much for having me on.
No worries. It's really, really good to see you. And obviously, you are our first Skype guest. So
yes,
this might be a bit bumpy. Yeah, it might be a bit bumpy. So strap in. But I'm sure.
I'm ready. I'm strapped in.
I'm sure we'll get there. But yeah, no, really good to see you. And
likewise.
Yes, it's a shame we can't do this in person, but we're not going to allow COVID-19 to restrict us.
Definitely not.
Continue sharing.
Definitely not.
And continue learning.
But look, what we can do, Jamie, when COVID goes away, if you want to fly me out to Malta, I'll happily come over on an all-expenses paid trip to record another episode.
All right, I'll see what I can do. Likewise, when you need someone to come and present something, I'm sure you can find someone more qualified in Ireland. So you can try that. But yeah, obviously we've been speaking for a little while now, and again, thank you. You introduced me to our man Daniel. Daniel's
indeed.
Great guy. So I really appreciate that. And
no problem.
He says he's got lots of good stories about you as well. So.
Does it?
Yeah. All PG, sadly. I was trying to get some dirt before this, but he didn't have anything, sadly.
Dan wouldn't share the dirt.
I know. He seems too clean. This is the problem.
Yeah, he is.
And we need to try and tarnish him a little bit.
He's got small biceps.
Tiny. Yeah.
Yeah, tiny, very, very small biceps. Needs to do some curls.
So, just to really introduce you really to our listeners, and I guess so. Obviously, I know you're a nutritionist to elite athletes. Obviously, a number of them going to Tokyo. But it'd be good to initially just obviously understand your field of specialization, and then we can start jumping into your background and stuff.
So, my ties to Malta are pretty recent. I went to the University of Malta, and I was the first international student to study dietetics there. So I only graduated in December from UOM. So I'm a registered dietitian, and I wanted to go on and specialize in sports nutrition. Mm-hmm. I've been working with athletes for a few years, so I wanted to just jump on and get a master's in it. And around the corner, there's a PhD waiting for me to start.
Wow.
So that would be all nice and interesting. I suppose the work I do on a day-to-day basis, it's just conversations like this, nice and relaxed with athletes of all calibers. Mm-hmm. There's boxers, rowers, professional cyclists, Olympic level track and field athletes, and it's just about, what are you eating before training, what are you having after, and whilst the conversation can seem very simple, those real simple things, they have a spider web and a whole host of complex scientific thought processes behind them.
Yeah.
And like, a lot of people get kind of lost in that,
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of forget that at the end of all the science and the research and like the cell signaling pathways, there has to be a practical application.
Yeah.
So
And
that's really what I do.
And
Untangle science.
Which is probably where you and Daniel link quite nicely, because again, going your professions overlap to a degree. His obviously master training, personal training, etc. And there are similarities in terms of you have, everyone. I say everyone and his friend, but there are a lot of nutritionists out there, right? And the level of the quality of what they're offering could be debatable at times. Sometimes, even I'm quite hot on my own diets, which is great that you're here, because there's some of the things I want to discuss with you, just things that I'm doing and things I'm probably doing wrong. So, have you seen that there's been an influx in let's say your off the shelf nutritionists, as opposed to individuals that have really taken more of a scientific route like yourself?
Yeah, and to be honest, like even my hometown here, there's a couple of gurus, and they give out crappy messages, and they do things like they'll say sugar will give you cancer and high fat diets are the way forward and veganism is the best.
Yeah.
And every time a false information like this is put out there, it just dilutes like the potential of people who are actually formally qualified or evidence-based or go by science, because what I say is never as exotic or appealing as all these kind of like false truths and half promises.
Yeah.
So
I guess because it's not as big bang, like there's a book I just read called Rework, where in that they're saying it's good to pick a fight sometimes. Be purposely controversial, because then it makes you stand out. So do you think maybe that's where sometimes they've jumped on the can you call veganism a bandwagon now? It's turned into more of a religion, sadly. It can be looked at a religion. People have nutrition camps. Yeah. And the reason that has the ability to exist is because there is no one correct way to lose weight. Yeah. Which is usually the metric people measure a diet efficacy from. Right? So our lived experience, what we've done and what we've seen that works, usually informs our opinion. It's one of the reasons why in evidence-based practice, an expert opinion is like the lowest level. It's the least regarded type of evidence. Yeah. Because humans are biased by nature almost. So then when you have people saying this diet is better than this diet, they're missing the point. It's all context. Yeah. And surely so there's a and I've said this to numerous guests actually, where everyone is an individual. There may be things that impact my body that don't impact yours, or vice versa. Things that work for me that don't for other people. So I think when they're sweeping statements, which we're continually using, not just in diets and nutrition, everywhere. We kind of need to always take a bit of a step back, think for ourselves. I think is the big thing. Where we're quite easily led, sadly. I
think that idea of, you said it there, you need to stand out and be controversial. That's a misapplication of business to science, where it doesn't really belong. Yeah. No, that's fair. So like if I said something like, or we were doing an interview and you took a segment and I said sugar was bad, and then you advertised it as Evan Lynch, Elite Sports Nutritionist and Dietitian, says sugar is bad.
I was totally going to do that. I was going to do that as well.
Please don't.
No, I'm joking.
Like, there are caveats to everything. Yeah. So sugar is bad in excess if you're diabetic. Yeah. Yeah. Sugar is bad if you have it in huge portions all the time. Sugar is bad if you have sugary drinks it can ruin your teeth if you have them frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar is good if you're exercising.
Yeah.
It's good if you have a hypo.
Yeah. So there's basically there's good and bad to everything. This is the kind of the message, really, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Here's a good litmus test that you and anyone listening to this can use. And I encourage my clients to do this with me. And it's how I see to other experts. If they tell you something, ask them why. So sugar is bad. Why? They'll crumble. It's amazing. It's like a house of cards and wind.
Yeah. That's something I've used quite a few times in my day job. When they don't have evidence to back it up, they're like, oh, that's because I read it somewhere.
Yeah,
so where did you read it?
You read it.
I read it
on Netflix.
Yeah, I read it in the Daily Mail. It's like, oh great, the gospel. Yeah, no, it's funny. So going back to then, obviously you said you came over to Malta initially. So when did you get back to Ireland? When did you head back?
Moved back in Ireland in September.
In September, okay. So it's been a good 9 months back. And what did you make of your experience in Malta? You know, what was it? What kind of highlights would you say?
Highlights definitely were the weather. And I have this thing about blue-green water.
Oh wow, yeah.
Sea, oh man.
Yeah.
I don't live by the sea here in Ireland. And I found the people to be quite friendly.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, like if you go to a different country, they can say things like, oh, they don't like tourists, or you know, if you don't speak their language, they don't really kind of mess with you.
Yeah.
But I had to learn Maltese to work in the hospital and to do my course.
Which
and that's why
a tough language, as I can test.
It was tough. Yeah, it was tough.
Can you say any have you got any Maltese phrases left that you remember?
Mushek.
Mushek. And what does Mushek mean for the non-Maltese?
Of course. So how I navigated it, right? I spoke 3 languages before I came to Malta.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of linguistic.
Nice. Okay.
And when I started the course, you know, all the theory was in English. And on my first day of placement, I remember we were with these diabetic nurses, and I can just remember this phrase. It was like, Andex on Hafna insulina, and every time you eat. And I just remember looking, thinking, oh my God, I need to learn a whole language like right now.
Yeah.
Because whilst a lot of people in Malta do speak English, it's the older cohorts that don't.
Yeah.
And those are the people who make up the majority of a hospital population.
Of course.
So,
and the patients coming in are typically traditionally Maltese, so their command of English, where they may have some, it's going to be limited compared to being able to express themselves in the language that's theirs. So
I found that when I made a little bit of an effort, like they're so friendly, you know.
Yeah.
I think in any country, if you make an effort to like embrace the culture and the local language, of course they're going to be more accepting of you.
My favorite phrase is Mush nefmek, Binglies yek yojbok, which basically means Mush nefmek means I don't understand. Can you speak English, please? Which they go, and it's like, okay, so it shows I know a tiny bit, but it at least kind of helps.
I found like people could see me struggling if I was doing a one-on-one sometimes, and you know, then they would just start speaking English. Like they would mess with me sometimes. Yeah. You know, they start smiling and say, "I speak fluent English." Like, yeah.
And I think we're lucky as well. Obviously, being British, sadly, there's not many places in Europe that let's say welcome the Brits due to our extracurricular activities, especially on holidays or when football is on. So there's not many countries, but Malta is definitely one. I think it's just because of us flanking them during World War II and everything else. But there's a lot of similarities in terms of how they interact as well. So there's lots of Englishness in the Maltese, which I love.
That makes it an easy country to move to.
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone loves Irish people all over the world. So, like, you know, it would have been grand anywhere.
It's just it's only because you bring Guinness. It's the only reason.
I actually don't drink.
You don't drink?
Shane.
Oh, you don't? Are you
Nothing.
really? You're wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do the drinking for you.
Yeah, not a stereotypical Irish person by a long shot.
No, just
No, no.
And so obviously you came over here to study. Firstly,
Yeah.
having to pick up the language. Wow, that's going to be trying to obviously doing so with your masters, right? So doing a masters, which is intense, as well as a new language. How are you?
Yeah.
How are you even able to? Where did you start? Where did you start with that? Language first, or just trying to do both?
I just had to just spend time every day at both.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, I'm used to having a high workload.
Yeah.
Just all the time. But I like challenges as well. Like I find if I have a day off, I'm just sad almost. So how I started was I realized that I wasn't going to be able to learn everything.
Yeah.
So most of my vocabulary is centered around what happens in a consultation. And then I slowly spread out to medical terms, other food, then like colloquial language, like how are you, good morning, goodbye, things like that.
Yeah, nice.
So I just kind of had to shadow dietitians for a while, and I watched exactly what they were saying, and I just kind of parroted that.
You've had a recorder, just record what they're saying. Okay, I'll just copy that.
I was writing things down, and I would ask them like, what does podgy mean? It means sit down. But that was day one, how it started, and this just kind of slowly came together.
So, so prior to you going down this path of being a nutritionist, and I know, obviously you told me this before, but it'd be good to kind of understand your passion for sport and basically your original dream, which was one which when I shared when I was younger as well, which I'll come on to.
Okay, so I actually initially wanted to be an Olympic athlete, and my 10 to 15-year-old self kind of thought that I would have been one by now.
How old are you now?
So I'm 24.
24, okay.
Yeah. So I ended up having to stop my athletics career about 3 years ago. I got injured and I just wasn't able to come back from it, and other things kind of crept in. But I'll walk you up to that point. So I started a sport called race walking. It's a bit of a fringe sport in the track and field curriculum, but my dad did it and he represented Ireland at it, so I wanted to give it a go. Yeah,
it's tough. It's tough as well. I know the It's you have to keep, or you always have to keep one foot on the ground, right?
Yeah, at all times.
Yeah, but you're going at a rapid speed, so it's quite easy to turn that into a run. So it's
a lot of people think that, but they're biomechanically very different. It's like asking a swimmer if they find it hard not to break out into a cycle. They're very different things.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. It would actually be very hard to go from walking into running.
Really? Okay.
But I used to train on the Tal Raw Sports Complex in Zira, just by the university.
And, actually, this is where the studio is. We're right next to that.
Oh, go away. I only lived around the corner.
Ah, really? Okay.
Yeah. I was literally 50 meters from the Hatter Cafe.
Yes.
My time there.
Yeah, that is literally just around the corner. So the track is right behind us. That's where I used to train. Okay, wow.
So if you want context as to how fast I was going, my 10k PB was 44 minutes flat, which was just off of the World Junior qualification time.
44 minutes for 10k?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
okay.
Walking. That is approximately 1 minute and 45 second laps around the track.
Wow, that is impressive. And I'm just thinking about, the people doing a 10k, I've seen people this week on Strava doing 10ks in 50 minutes running.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty bad time.
Yeah, that is insane. Okay.
Yeah. If you're looking for kind of something you can directly correlate against, 2k PB is 7:30. If you wanted to try beat that, let me know how you get on.
It's against your 2k personal best is 7 minutes 30
seconds walking. Yes.
Shit, that's
that was quick.
That is quick.
That's the world's last time.
Okay. So I'm going to try. Okay, so I need to map out 2 kilometers. I'm going to run it within the next 3 weeks. I'll let you know how I get on.
Putting the gauntlet down. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
The dose
Yeah,
challenge.
I fear I'm going to lose this, but that's okay.
So it was just something I was good at. I won a national title. Obviously, that kind of spurs you on, and you want to do more. So by the time I had to walk away from it with injuries at the age of 20, 21, I'd won 20 national titles.
Wow. Okay.
Represented Ireland 11 times at world and European level. And I had a couple of Irish records to my name. Not sure if they're still there.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive. And how do you train? But even before that, how do you even? You're not necessarily taught that at school or PE. Like it's not. It's not a common thing. So how do you? Before we get into training, how do you even get into it in the first place? How do you know if you're good at it?
My dad did it, and I just wanted to try.
Yeah.
I was bad at every other sport.
Okay.
So I was like, right.
Got to be good at something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the training is exactly like marathon running, but you're just walking.
Right. Okay. But is there if you just from I love the Olympics and athletics, so whenever I've seen one of the races, are they called walk races? What's the actual official name?
Race walking.
Race walking. And some of them have like a particular technique, like where it seems like almost they're using their shoulders. Is that something that helps, or is that just their own technique?
It's kind of just counterbalance. You don't consciously do that.
Okay.
So from that rule, 1 foot on the ground at all times, you can use your shoulders to kind of keep you anchored. So they're like anti up and down movements. Right. We'll say. And if you're rotating your shoulders and your arms, that whole rotational stability just kind of keeps you as efficient as possible. Basically. So that's, some people are more flamboyant with their shoulders. It's kind of I don't know. It just depends on the person's biomechanics. That's not a trained aspect of it, though. Right.
I see. Okay. Wow. Yeah. And in terms of training, then, so is it just purely like, okay, hit the track? I mean, obviously do your strength training, but it's more endurance training, I'd imagine.
It depends on the distance.
Right.
So, like I said, it was similar to marathon training. If you're a 50k walker. At the time when I finished up, I was a 20k walker. Okay. So it would have been like half marathon training.
Yeah, I see.
But all the way up through like underage junior, under 23, I was 5k, 10k, 20k. So big variance there.
Yeah, wow.
And I suppose one thing about elite sport, even if it's marathon training, you still have to train pretty hard. Like you have to do the easy stuff. But like there's huge monster workouts in there as well. Like my toughest session used to be a 20k progression session. So you would base it off heart rate. So 150, 60, 70, and then 185 beats per minute in 5k split. So every 5k gets about a minute and a half faster.
Wow. Okay.
That's a pretty tough workout.
Okay, I can imagine.
The best one I ever did, the final 5k, I did it in about 21:15. So that is 142 laps of the track, finishing at 20k.
Wow. Okay. And so 20,000 meters is how many laps?
It is 50.
50 laps. Okay. Wow. Just to put into perspective of people. Wow. Okay, I can see why you could potentially get injury if you're. Well, so what happened with the injury? So obviously it was something you couldn't come back from.
Called crepitus in my ankle joint.
Okay.
It's essentially very severe tendonitis.
Really? Okay.
So I woke up one morning, got out of bed, and I couldn't put weight on my left leg, and that stayed on and off for about a year and a half.
Really?
And then
Did you get that scanned? Like, how did you know? Where did the diagnosis come from?
Physiotherapist if you move my foot, my ankle joint creaks. He said that's crepitus. No need for a scan. There's nothing they could really do. I managed to walk for maybe 10 minutes, and it would just come at me again.
Really?
And there's only so many times you can kind of pick yourself back up and get knocked again instantly.
Yeah.
Like, and I would be tenacious enough, but it was just at a stage where it was so heartbreaking that I couldn't keep doing it.
Wow. And to come so close as well, to be like, okay, you've dominated Ireland. You've gained another number of records. I need to now do some digging. Surely you have one or two still left. But yeah, to get so close, I'm sure it must be. It must have been tough.
Was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. I would say I was dominating in my age group.
Mm-hmm.
So like I was just about to break into senior level. Would have been a different kettle of fish then. I would have been probably 4th or 5th nationally. But it's a very small elite sport in Ireland.
Yeah.
Anyone who's doing it at senior level, they are Olympic athletes.
Right.
Or international level world class.
Yeah.
So it's not a kind of fun runner sport. You have to be good or you don't do it.
Yeah. Of course.
Basically.
And which and again, race walking is just I don't know much about in terms of the countries and the champions, etc. Who is there? Is there particular countries? You know how you have like with the long distance running, typically the Somalians, Ethiopians have always dominated or been dominating countries. Is there a particular country when it comes to walking that stands out?
There was. Russia was number 1.
Really?
They were all doing extracurriculars.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Really dark sport for that. The Chinese were pretty good. If there was any kind of consistent powerhouse at the moment, I would say it's Japan, Australia, or Colombia. Spain, yeah.
Okay, so
Spain is good as well.
Okay, so there's no particular country that jumps out other than Russia because of their drug taking.
Per capita, you could argue that Ireland is one of the best.
Yeah. We
have had 3 world champions and consistently placed very highly.
Yeah, wow. Have you come across any potential athletes in Malta for walking?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, there's a space there at least. I think maybe that's the problem. There's not enough space in Malta for them to walk far enough.
I think in the year I was there, I did something like 6,000 laps of the track and walked up and down the promenade in Zira and Taj Beach maybe 200 times.
Yeah.
It's got a bit repetitive.
Yeah, there's not too many places you can change it up.
Not really.
So I can only imagine having to face that would have been tough initially. And then was it a natural progression for you to go into nutrition and becoming a dietitian, or was that something that were you just searching at that moment?
How would I say this? This is my new athletic.
Oh, okay, nice.
That makes sense. My new conquest.
Yeah.
I was at the time. I was halfway through a bachelor's degree in food science and health when I kind of ended up leaving sports. And then when I finished that, came to Malta to study dietetics, and now I'm doing a master's in sports and exercise nutrition.
Right, nice. And
so just natural.
What are the, and maybe they're the same, but is there a difference between being a dietitian and a nutritionist?
I'm very glad you asked. Yes, there is. A nutritionist is not qualified to work in a hospital, to work with sick people. So anyone with diabetes, heart conditions, food allergies or intolerances, gastric problems, anything with like even the slightest hint of a medical complication, they can't do that.
Because they're legally, just not qualified. Wow, interesting. Okay.
They're not qualified.
Yeah.
Also, a dietitian, you're bound by a code of ethics, and you're registered. So you're part of an organisation that kind of holds you accountable to what you do, and you are obliged to kind of keep learning and developing. It's called continuous professional development.
Yeah.
it's a requirement of the job.
Right.
So really important distinction. And you can tell a nutritionist online, because they usually talk about like allergy and intolerance testing.
Really?
That's one of their mainstays.
Wow.
Interesting to know. The likes of Boots, who were doing that food tolerance test, they test that using IgE antibodies, which are non-specific immune antigens, and they're present anyway, right?
Right. Okay.
And here's the interesting thing:
is this related to COVID or just your immunity?
No, God, no.
Okay.
It's just allergy intolerance testing, and it's
I see.
an example of how nutritionists kind of grasp onto things without really having too much of an understanding and like completely misinterpreting. So, let's say I had this cappuccino about an hour ago, and there's milk in it. Every time I drink milk, my body releases an IgE antibody against that. It's kind of like microdosing my immune system against milk.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You do that with like colds and flus and viruses as well.
Yeah.
So when you do an intolerance testing, if you gave me a food diary of the things you commonly eat, those are the things that will come up in red on an intolerance test, because you're going to have the biggest IgE response to them, because your immune system is most familiar with them.
I see. Okay.
So this is where it gets a bit kind of like salesmanship magic. Because I recently had a client who spent €400 on this in Dublin, did this IgE test, and surprise, most of the staple foods she eats were in red to avoid. They're selling it as the cause of her problem.
But that's purely because it's highlighting in your immune cells.
It's the thing that happens anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
But that's because you are regularly taking that. That's where it's flagged. Where if there's other foods I wouldn't typically take, but will have the same response, but because it's not as prevalent in my diet, that's why it's not flagging.
Yes.
Right. Interesting.
So if they use IgE antibody testing, run away very quickly.
IgE antibodies, run.
Gone. Good luck.
Okay, nice. Okay, good tip.
Just interesting to know.
Yeah.
And I know nutritionists who talk about all types of allergies and sensitivities, and they kind of weave their story to fit the narrative of someone who's suffering from some digestive symptoms, and then to them that's the answer.
Right.
They grasp onto it like.
Because that's what they're selling. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Really. Wow. It's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So that's a big. That's the big difference ultimately. So is there like an annual summit or something that all dietitians have to attend, or is it an ongoing thing, or is
not
it more
necessarily? There's just a load of events happening all the time, and you can go to them. You have an obligation to do a certain amount of CPD.
Yeah.
So like you kind of your own prerogative essentially.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, ultimately, if
my master's degree would be my CPD.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Basically.
Okay, brilliant. And so ultimately, there's a lot more studying and science that goes behind being a dietitian as opposed to a nutritionist.
Yes, always.
Just to simplify. Okay, so
you have to understand medical side of things, the underlying physiology, behavior change is one thing we would look at, and you have to be able to work like in the context of a medical setting. So understanding pharmacotherapy, disease pathology, things like that, and even reading a blood panel, you have to be able to do that. Like,
okay.
So all of those things go into being able to tailor a nutrition approach to someone.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay. So let's get on to without obviously ruling too much, some of your clients. So your clients are typically, obviously you have a whole host, but quite a few of those are elite athletes. Some of them were due to go to Tokyo, or will be going to Tokyo at some point as well, right?
Yeah. I won't do names, but there are two guys I'm working with at the moment. Both are European medalists. Both are walkers.
Yeah.
One already is an Olympic athlete. The other is trying to qualify for Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
And even, I suppose, to go into a bit about what I do with them, a drink strategy for the race. So Sapporo is going to be incredibly hot.
A drink strategy.
Yeah, so
wow.
in a 20 or 50k race.
Yeah.
The biggest things from a nutrition point of view in all endurance events are, can we limit dehydration? Can we keep them cool? Can we stop them hitting the wall? And maybe if we can get caffeine in at specific time points, can that help their performance?
Oh, really? Okay, because obviously caffeine is a drug, but it's an
ergogenic aid.
Yeah.
So even stomach problems as well. Can we avoid stomach problems on the day? That's another aspect of it. So what goes into what I would do with the 50k walker, we'll say, to be on his feet for about 3 hours, 40 minutes. It's going to be maybe 30 degrees, maybe hotter.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to get maybe 600 to 700 mils of fluid into him every hour. Make sure there's a little bit of salt in there. Frequent caffeine delivery. Using ice hat to keep his core temperature down.
An ice hat?
And ice hat, yeah.
Wow, okay.
So that's another thing. And the whole reason behind that is for every percentage dehydrated you get, so I'm 70 kilos, if I lose 0.7 of a kilogram in sweat, that's 1% dehydration. Your core temperature rises by 1/4 of a degree. Okay?
Yeah.
I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but every percentage dehydration is a 10% drop in aerobic performance.
Wow.
And cognitive function. So that's huge. So
10%,
if we're looking at the 50k walker who's dehydrated by the time he's at 20k, he could lose 30 minutes easily.
Wow. Okay. So this is when you're really dealing with these, really low margins that you're kind of working with, right? Just to the small gains all add up.
Yeah. So those small gains, they really can add up. Like if 1% dehydration, which by the way, you don't even feel thirsty if you're 1% dehydrated. Thirst comes 30 minutes after 1% dehydration.
Really?
So it's really tough. And if you're losing 10% of performance capacity, simply because more blood is going to the surface of your skin to try to cool you down, you just have less oxygen getting to your muscles. If that's a 30-minute drop, like in your time, you're going from top 5 to maybe top 30, and good luck to the medal. Like that's not happening. So it is really important. And so with the other guy, the guy who's trying to qualify. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, is there a lot of? There must be a lot of testing, because you need to know. Again, it goes back to the individual. So some people will respond, but get dehydrated quicker, or some people will respond to certain levels of glucose more than others. So how before a championship race, how much testing have you had to, you've had to kind of probe them and be like, right, this works, this doesn't work?
Months.
Wow.
Months. So the hydration and fueling strategy, and I haven't even got onto the carbohydrates yet. That starts for Tokyo, the guys who are pushed back to 2021, that starts now. So it depends, someone's tolerance to fluids and fuel during a race or exercise conditions, that's very there's a lot of intervariability there between people. If someone has IBS or IBD, that will also affect how you can fuel them up.
IBD?
Irritable bowel syndrome or irritable bowel disease.
Oh, disease. Okay, of course. Yeah.
Most athletes don't have IBD. Some recreational athletes do.
Okay.
And recreational athletes I'm working with, some of them are doing Ironmans, so you have to do this stuff as well.
Wow.
So the biggest factor in someone tolerating high fluids and high carbs in training is practice. So on race day, it's nothing new. And the physiological kind of max someone can oxidize in an hour of exercise is 90 grams of carbohydrates, 60 of which will be from maltodextrin or glucose-derived sugars, 30 grams of which will be fructose. So that's usually enough to kind of sort most people out. And there is a little bit of research at the moment to show that probiotics can up that further. So with the guys who are doing events that are over 2 hours long, that's enough time to run out of glycogen. So the challenge is with these guys, can we buffer their stores of glycogen beforehand and keep them topped up on exogenous glucose intake to stop them hitting the wall and crawling over the finish line, basically.
So this is why you see the gels. You got like the jellies and stuff, or the gels that you is that a form? Is that's how you're giving them this fructose?
Yeah. So how I actually do it with my athletes, and I'm trialing this at the moment with a cohort of athletes in Cycling Ireland. I'm doing a project with their athlete development team. Like these are the next like Irish versions of Chris Froome or whatever.
Oh, wow.
We're making our sports drinks from scratch, so it's actually really kind of cool to do, because it allows you to start off at a low level, similar to a Elite Sport or commercial sports drink. Yeah. And then we can build up slowly as per the person's tolerance to 90 grams an hour high fluid intake. And that can take a few months. So you just kind of practice that. You call it carbohydrate challenges. Okay, we challenge this person with 60 grams, 40 maltose, 20 fructose, sprinkle of salt. How did they get on? They were fine. Let's bump it up to 70, 80, 90. When we're at top level, then we'll try things like probiotic supplementation and just going over that level, over the 90 grams an hour, just to see what happens. Really, the more we can get in, the better. Again, this is all about buying time, buying back some glucose, buying back some margin between high performance and the wall hitting. Yeah. And if you combine that with somewhere between 600 and 700 mils of fluids per hour, that's usually enough. Some people have high sweat rates and they lose a lot of sodium. That's something you have to test in a lab. That's not something I can test. They'd have to go off, get that looked at, and I get the results, and I could put that into a plan. So usually it's kind of like bigger guys, bigger upper bodies. So they suffer a little bit more. But it is individual.
When you're flooding, then flooding is one of a better word. These athletes full of glucose, kind of high sugars. Yeah. Can there be a point where and I guess this is what you've just alluded to, that you're going to test it just to see what happens or how much they can take? Can it end up having an adverse effect if you end up putting too much sugar into the blood, because then you're going to have a spike up and down, or is that a myth?
So if you have someone just sitting on the couch and they take on 90 grams of glucose, they're going to get a huge blood glucose spike, followed by a massive insulin spike to try and filter that out and to just cope with it. Your body doesn't like to have very high or very low levels of blood sugar, and it reacts accordingly. Yeah. When you exercise, your insulin sensitivity goes through the roof, and you also get a massive increase in glucose transport. So if you have 90 grams of glucose, and it's not, you don't chug it down in one go. It's taken in 6 to 7 kind of smaller boluses during an hour of exercise. So that's one difference as well. But when you're exercising, that kind of insulin action isn't required, because in your cells, usually they're closed for all intents and purposes to glucose. You need insulin to help get it in. When you exercise, they open a little door on the surface and glucose can get in by itself.
Really?
Basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never knew
that's why exercise is really helpful for helping diabetics control their blood glucose, because it allows them to do it without relying on insulin sensitivity or production. It's kind of like you bypass the whole pancreas involvement. So that's one aspect of it. If it's high intensity exercise as well, your energy requirements could be like 10 times your weight in calories per hour, at least, maybe 12. So you're going to be burning at a high rate. Yeah. And if it's intense, which it always is in race scenarios, and this is something we might touch on afterwards, this is a bit of a nuance. When you're over about 65% of your VO2 max, which that's not hard work, for example, that's like easy jogging. But you're in a race scenario, you're working at around 80 to 85% of your VO2 max. At least high-level athletes are. The guys I work with would be. At that level, it's almost physiologically impossible to metabolize fat for fuel. Not possible. Your energy requirement is too high, and fat metabolism is too slow and inefficient to match it. And also, your blood flow to your adipose tissue is reduced because all your blood is in your muscles, so you're not getting transport of fatty acids from your stomach to your muscle cells. So that's one reason also why you need to really like ramp up the carbohydrate intake, because you're burning through your glycogen like very, very quickly.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really cool stuff, and like the dynamic of it and how it changes depending on activity, the time, the intensity, the athlete themselves. It's just an interesting puzzle to try and put together for people. And it gets more interesting then when you have, say, the other athlete I'm working with, the other walker, he has tummy problems, and he would projectile vomit maybe 5 times a week training, like before we started working together, and it would happen in every race.
Wow.
It's obviously not conducive to performance, because you know you're losing all of your fuel and you're getting dehydrated.
Oh my god,
it's bad for your throat as well. So we had to, alongside, make sure that his fueling process was okay. He was a 20k walker, so we didn't really have to get 90 grams down him. We could keep it to around 60 grams of maltodextrin and cut the fructose out, because fructose can be malabsorbed. It falls into the bracket of a FODMAP fiber. Okay. So if you have a sensitive tummy, if you malabsorb fructose, it goes straight to your large intestines and causes gas, bloating, cramps, and diarrhea.
Interesting.
So we have to, this is where like the kind of medical and physiology background is very, very important, because that's something that can easily slip the net. But with this guy, we just kept it to like glucose derivative sugars. Maltodextrin is the best tolerated, so that's what we did. And before the exercise, like no fiber, no fat, for a couple of hours before a tough exercise bout or race, simply because they have a long gastric emptying rate. Basically, if you eat like what's a high fat fiber meal? If you had a bowl of bran flakes, peanut butter on it for breakfast, that's a lot of fiber and fat. That's in your stomach for hours before it goes into your intestines for absorption. Whereas if you had, like, say, white toast with jam, that's all simple sugars.
Yeah.
So that's gone quicker. So a lot of people kind of struggle with this, that, okay, if I eat this at, let's say, 9 o'clock in the morning, there's no way it could affect me at 1 o'clock in the day. And that's just not true. So some fibers and fats can take up to 8 hours in your stomach.
Wow. Okay.
So again, just another important kind of dynamic that you have to factor in with someone who has tummy problems, on top of fluid loss rates, on top of the intensity of the exercise, on top of heat management and hydration. It's just kind of another ball to juggle.
So you would prescribe to one of your athletes then. Ultimately, you want them to get this fuel through them as quickly as possible before a race, rather than it being sat in their stomach just being digested slowly.
Yeah.
So in effect, you would say, let's go down the simple sugars route to get you some fuel into your system, rather than just sitting in your stomach and then taking longer and therefore having a slower effect. Having a sluggish effect on you, on your performance. Wow. God. Okay.
So not just sluggish, but what actually happens when you start exercising, Jamie, even at 70% heart rate, like that's not hard exercise, you lose about 90% of the blood flow to your intestines. So anything that isn't really a simple sugar or water or an electrolyte, you just have a high likelihood you're going to malabsorb it. So what can happen is you can vomit, you can get stomach pain, you can have cramps, bloating, or diarrhea, or all of them. You can have all of those things as well. So it's not even a case of you won't digest it as well. You're not going to digest it, and it's going to cause you a lot of pain and like problems. So that's
I'm just trying to think now. When I was younger, I used to run for an athletics club. Funnily enough, so Mo Farah, the 10,000. So I used to run. He's doing my club, my team. And I used to do 400 meters, and he used to do 1,500 meters. He was ridiculous, like insane.
Still is.
Sadly, obviously, as I got older, my ability to chase women in alcohol was a bit better than the finish line. But I remember before a race, I would always get and I always thought it was nerves, and I always get maybe diarrhea or stomach pain or cramps. But it may be just going back to what you're saying about the diet. Maybe I was having things that were not suitable or required at that time, so it was being malabsorbed and needed to get out of my body.
If it was nerves, if the diarrhea happened before you start warming up, that's anxiety and nerves, which can have the same effect. It's all fight or flight response, and it has the same effect in your intestines. If it happens after you've started warming up, then it's the exercise.
Yeah, interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's just a good example of, it's not just about numbers. Like, this person needs fluids and carbs. Simple, write it down, tick. No thought involved. There's a lot of thought involved. And like, even some other athletes I'm working with, female athletes, some of them have a thing called relative energy deficiency syndrome, where basically
these are REDs, right?
Just kind of REDs, yeah.
Yeah, I've sort of seen about that.
You know what it is?
I don't know. I've only been reading your posts, so please enlighten me.
So REDs, basically, it's kind of it's a neuroendocrine dysfunction, really, just from consuming way too little energy. And the International Olympic Council have kind of a threshold of 30 calories per kilogram of fat-free mass. So, like, muscle mass, basically, by 30 is how many calories a day you need to be getting at least to kind of not develop REDs. So you have to be eating very little for this to happen.
Okay. And
REDs can kind of precipitate if you're an endurance athlete, you have a high calorie output.
Right.
So alongside like high energy output, certain athletes can fall victim to picking specific food preferences because they want to appear like to be like an athlete, you know, like on the Instagram hashtag clean eating and things like that. And that can actually drive your calorie intake down, because lots of the, I suppose, virtuous things to eat would be like salads, low carb meals, like berries and things like that. And a lot of people won't post like the big bowl of pasta or porridge or like the homemade pizza that they definitely need to be eating. So that's one of the factors in the etiology of RED-S. But why am I talking about RED-S? Well, what can happen for a female athlete is when their energy intake is consistently this low, their estrogen production can be affected, and that can have a direct effect on their menstrual function. So like, it's not uncommon for female kind of college age endurance athletes to lose their menstrual cycle and develop amenorrhea. And that's really that's one messed up aspect of elite sports. And then in tandem with that estrogen kind of dropping effect, that can have an effect on your bone metabolism. So you can start to lose a bit of BMD. You end up leaching a little bit of calcium from your bones as well. So for athletes like that, the third prong of it is iron deficiency anemia. So they're going to have very low ferritin stores, if any, and their hemoglobin is dropping. So, and I suppose the implications for, let alone general health, but sports performance are this: you are not capable of tolerating exercise. You can't run or really do anything aerobic without getting out of breath within like 2 minutes. And you can't put too much pressure on your bones or they will break. Really not conducive to performance. So if you have an athlete who's at risk of that, and a lot of athletes are more at risk than they would like to think. Like, one thing I see a lot in my practice, and I don't know if this is really like a clinically classified thing, but I would call them subclinical eating disorder cognitions, where they talk about having food guilt, feeling shame for eating certain foods, like real negative emotions around certain food choices, and like their food relationship really affects their mental health. But they might necessarily have a BMI of below 16.5 to classify them as anorexic, basically, and they mightn't engage in like binging or purging or laxative use, so they wouldn't be bulimic either. So that's subclinical. It's like there's something not right, but it's not like a full-blown clinical disorder yet. And a lot of athletes have a touch of that. So for a female athlete with RED-S, what you need to do is you have to supplement them with calcium and vitamin D. That has to go way up. Their calorie intake has to just
jumping on that
around 45.
So your vitamin D. So just before you, so RED-S stands for again?
Relative energy deficiency syndrome.
Okay, and you were saying about, so obviously the calcium is affected, so vitamin D. So and I just want to jump on this point because I heard about it this week. and how
Okay.
how so many people are deficient in vitamin D, and actually how it turns into, it's processed, it's absorbed and then processed and turned into a hormone, which has a huge effect on your ability to absorb up to 40% calcium, which is insane. And this is never spoken about. I've only heard about it this week. So is that something you've been aware of, or?
Yeah, vitamin D is a real problem at a lot of levels. So in Ireland anyway, we don't get the sunlight or the UV index, so we tend to have lower levels. In Malta, people just don't go outside in the summer, so they miss the sun. So they have the vitamin D deficiency is very common in Malta. Actually, I do know that for a fact.
Wow, that's so surprising.
Yeah, counterintuitive. What happens then is most people as well, by trying to be healthy, they avoid fat-rich products. And vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin.
Yeah.
So if you're going for all the skimmed milks, the low-fat cheese, you're avoiding nuts, seeds, avocados, oils, like healthy oils, not like soybean oil. You're missing your vitamin D, and it's, you actually need a lot, and it's hard to get. So most people I'm working with, I'll analyze them on the software, and if they're vitamin D deficient, I just put them on a supplement, like a generic one. The hormone you're talking about is calcitriol. So that's what helps you absorb calcium in your body. So yeah, being vitamin D deficient is just not a good thing. Definitely not for athletes, but it has direct impact on immune function and recovery ability. And even like there's literature there recently for just coronavirus, that being vitamin D deficient, again, because of poor immune function, it makes it much less likely that coronavirus is going to be a good thing for you.
Yeah.
They have studied as well that like very high doses, like I'm talking a couple of 1,000% of the RNI, the reference nutrient intake per day, can help with coronavirus, but I wouldn't personally do that.
Yeah, okay.
Rest, get your fluids in, that'll be more sensible guidelines to take. But I see it plastered all over social media. Vitamin D can cure coronavirus. It can't.
No,
Being vitamin D deficient will make it harder for you to deal with coronavirus.
Yeah.
Not the same thing. It's not kind of it's not a flip switch that being deficient causes X, so having way too much stops X.
Yeah. And
does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. But ultimately, you're saying getting outside in your back garden in the sun isn't going to be a bad thing for you anyway. Just as long as you're doing it, as long as you're doing it safely and you're not going to infect other people. Which is fair. And
expose your forearms.
And where and maybe again this is individualized, but is there a recommended amount of vitamin D? It's UVB, isn't it? UVB is the radiation, is the ray that you need for vitamin D. Is there a certain amount of time you should be in the sun that that's going to spike that? 20 to 30 minutes per day is more than enough. Yeah. Okay. So that's just a short walk, really. Just a walk along the promenade, or even if you're in Ireland. Yeah. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
the reference nutrient intake is around 500 IUs per day. So international units, that's essentially what it is, or 10 micrograms mcg, if that's what you're looking for on the side of a box. Yeah, wow. Basically.
Nice. Okay, wow. Okay, so that's given us a really nice insight into obviously your elite athletes. Now, I'm sure you have, you're going to have clients that aren't just a regular like myself, or just someone that
normal people.
They want to get their lifestyle in order. Maybe they've tried some of these. Maybe they've tried being vegan, which maybe has worked for them, but maybe they've tried a number of different diets. Some have had success, some haven't. Have you? What you've touched on it already, but what are your thoughts on the types of diets out there at the moment, and what are the common things you find with your regular clients in relation to this?
They hold on very dearly to their dietary proclivities. It's almost how would I put this? Let's say you came to me at the time and you say, look, Ev, this is what I've been doing for years. And then I kind of sit back and go, Some people take it as a direct insult that, you know, essentially if I say to someone, that's not great, what I'm saying is, for the last however many years of your life, you have been incapable of correctly eating. Like one of the most basic human functions, you've been doing it wrong. Nice. Do you know what I mean?
So you're an idiot.
There's nice. People can take it like that.
Yeah.
And people really kind of identify with their dietary protocol. Like it's a meme I know, but how do you know if someone is vegan? They will tell you. How do you know if someone is on a ketogenic diet? They will probably tell you. Yeah. How do you know if someone is paleo? They're probably wearing leather sandals, or they will tell you. Yeah. You know, there's signs.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful with how you broach that. But I often find most people are open-minded if you explain the rationale nice and clearly as to maybe why what you're doing isn't optimal, and you have to kind of make it clear for them why it's beneficial to change, because behavior change is difficult. Just by virtue of the fact that you're still alive and healthy, in your mind, that's enough of I suppose, what's the word? The validation of all the decisions you've made related to your health to now, because it's work. You're still surviving. It's not, it's not working. Otherwise, you'd be in the ground. So you really have to kind of help them make the cost-benefit analysis of change in favor of change. So it's hard to get people to break a habit or to change anything. So I like to start with real simple things. Oh, you drink normal soda, and we just make that a sugar-free one, and maybe that's all we do for a week, and maybe that doesn't seem like a big deal, but it really is, you know. Other things I might do is something like, okay, your portions are way too big. Instead of me getting you to measure your portions, let's maybe try use like a hand guide. So I'd like you to have maybe 3 fists of egg in your plate. A piece of protein should kind of be like the size of your hand, not including your thumb, and like a fist of carbohydrates. But here's the cinch. I want you to eat the vegetables first, then the protein, then the carbs, and then I might ask them like how many times they chew their food, or if they eat quickly. Do you know, Jamie, how many times you're supposed to chew your food?
25 times.
Scientifically speaking.
25 times?
30.
30? Okay,
30.
Shit. Okay. B minus.
Most B minus. Not
no, for me.
Most people don't chew their food 5 times.
Yeah.
Okay. So why this is useful, and why this is why I might go for before I'll get people to measure their food, is because between your tummy and your brain, you have it's called your enteric nervous system, and it takes your tummy 20 minutes to tell your brain that, look, I am full. So if you get someone to chew their food maybe 2 or 3 times more than they usually do, and they're eating the veg, then the protein, then the carbs, what happens? By the time they get to the carbohydrates, they're probably full. Yeah. They're less likely to finish everything on their plate, and they've stocked up on the nutrient dense and the protein rich, which are your 2 big players in satiety and weight loss. So whilst it sounds like, not very extreme, it's actually very useful. Yeah. And there's even been some interesting research in diabetes management that the order you eat what's on your plate affects your glycemic response post-eating for a while, and it can even affect your kind of likelihood of craving and like nibbling at things. You'll feel fuller if you're kind of engaging in what's called mindful eating. Yeah. So it's essentially a delay tactic to make you feel full before you eat a normal portion, and it works super well. I suppose really the best way to describe what I would do with people is we go for the low-hanging fruit first, go for like the simple set, and if they work, amazing. Then we just need to make sure they get their 5 a day and hit their fiber intake.
Yeah. Is that also something I mentioned on a previous episode? Something that I've done. I've done a lot of kind of personal testing, whether it be right or wrong, just to see how my own body responds to stuff, really, because I'm not trained. I'm not been to university to study any of these things. And one of the things that I've done now is separating my carbohydrates and my proteins. So if I'm having a protein, I'll typically have it with a salad or vegetables, and then maybe if I have potatoes, I'll have them afterwards. And that's purely because I'm trying to, and I've noticed it's stopped with bloating. Because my understanding, and again, this is why I'm asking, because maybe it's totally wrong. is that the starches or the easy carbs like white rice, etc. They're a lot easier to digest than your proteins and your rich fibers. Therefore, everything. But if you having pasta and chicken, and it's all mixed up, then it all gets digested at the same time because it just thinks it's all pasta, and therefore the chicken isn't properly digested before it's in your digestive tract. Is that true, or is there any truth to that, or not?
Not really.
Okay,
not
nice.
Really.
Okay.
So
I'm glad you're here.
What we could say is that people don't eat nutrients; they eat foods, which are food matrices. Essentially, what's on your plate, at least when it's in your stomach. So remember, I had mentioned gastric emptying rates. If you have protein, that can be somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes, depending on the person, and past that, let's say.
Yeah.
That will mechanically churn in your stomach. You will release acid, you will release intrinsic factor. That will break down all the amino acids in your tummy into little building blocks. And when that's all kind of a nice thick consistency called chyme, your stomach slowly releases little pulses of it into your small intestines, where your gallbladder and pancreas release digestive enzymes, and the brush border on your intestines. Essentially, the surface of your intestines does the same thing. So there's not a whole lot of truth to it.
Okay.
What can happen is, depending on the carbohydrate you're eating, if it's a high fiber or like a whole meal carbohydrate, and it also, if you have a lot of vegetables there, that can just be a big fiber load, which can cause a little bit of bloating. That would be about it.
Okay.
But no specific reason or rationale for pairing one with the other and not another. Doesn't make sense.
No, fair enough. Okay, this is why it's good to learn these things. So, going back to then when you're helping clients initially, you're not trying to just overnight totally change their stance and everything. It's a very, very, very gradual process. Is there like do you set a goal at the beginning with the client? Do they have a goal in mind, or is it just a gradual and then you review gradual improvement?
They always have goals in mind, depending on the person. Like, I had a guy last night, obviously not going to say his name, but he has a BMI of 37, mother had type 2 diabetes, and he has high blood pressure and he's 60. He's 110 kilos, okay? Same height as me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So my goal for him, although he doesn't know it, I don't necessarily have to tell him, is I want him to lose 10% body weight. So we'll reduce his type 2 diabetes risk by approximately 50%.
Right. Wow.
In most cases. That's the value of that, especially if it's kind of on his mother's side. So basically, I've told him, like, okay, look, we're going to go for a little bit of weight loss a week. I don't put a number on it, because unless I hook someone up to it's called a calorimetry machine, and I can track their steps, like with a pedometer, perfectly over the space of a day, I have no idea how many calories they require.
Yeah.
Everything else is a best guess.
Right.
So how I work with people, and I have full disclosure about this every time, I'm reacting to how they're reacting on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis, depending on how often we check in.
Yeah.
And that's all they need.
Yeah.
You know, where a lot of people are guilty is they assume that, humans are humans and this equation can just account for that, and that's not really true. So what I always try not to do is to kind of be putting square pegs into round holes. So we'll start with what, like, the most educated guess and the best protocol would be for the person. See how they react. If they react well, we make small changes. If they don't, we try a different thing. There's 100 right ways to do nutrition.
And how
it just depends on kind of what. Go on, sorry.
So I was going to say, bringing in things like, let's say, alcohol or drugs, drug use, or abuse even. Have you had any clients previously with alcohol or drug abuse, and how do you go about? If so, how have you gone about kind of working around it?
Not drugs. No, I can't say I've met people I've worked with anyone really who's been addicted to drugs. Coffee, I guess. Coffee is a drug, an addictive drug, psychoactive substance.
Yeah.
So technically, I do work with most of my clients are addicted to coffee. I am, but like in terms of the illicit ones, not really. They're not really the cohort of people who will be coming to someone like me.
Yeah.
They typically don't tend to do well in elite sports either.
Of course.
So that hasn't happened yet. Some of my more casual clients, they would like a pint or two. And that discussion has been sometimes like, okay, you like to drink 2 pints a day. Okay, maybe can we drop that to 1 a day on average?
Yeah.
If we can, that's great. You half your alcohol intake. And I suppose what I've done with some people is, sorry, go on. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, and then what? So by doing so, are you then giving them the numbers of what impact it's having or what improvements it's having to their body? For example, I'm going to be one of them. So I had maybe 2 pints last night. And then that obviously now has an impact on my dehydration. So are you so then do you then highlight by reducing down to 1 the improvements in X and Y by doing so, or okay?
I would do that. I would say, okay, look, this is your goal. You want to lose weight. This is your alcohol intake.
Yeah.
It makes it much harder for you to get to your goal.
Yeah.
You kind of have to tie it back into what they care about. Like most of the people who are kind of the drinking clients are over the age of 50 and not sporty. They don't care about dehydration or sports performance. So that's like, preaching to the wrong choir there. So basically what we tie it into there is, okay, well, high alcohol intake, given your age, bowel cancer, esophageal cancer, gout, liver disease, kidney problems, increased weight gain, all things you don't want.
Yeah.
So usually that's kind of enough. And I'm not so heavy on the scaremongering. I just say, look, can we try this for a week? And then their experience is kind of all the positive feedback they need. They just feel better.
Yeah. And then probably the cognitive function as well is vastly improved.
Yeah. What I do if I can is I'll get them to swap from an alcoholic to a non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
And it's a gradual kind of push then towards like, okay, well, let's try sparkling water and a non-alcoholic today instead of 2 beers.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately where I'd like it to end up.
Yeah.
What I got one guy to do is he used to like go to this pub where there'd be like stuff put up on the counter, like cocktail sausages and crisps. And I was like, okay, look, maybe we can do better than that. If you brought a bag of popcorn or like Walker's Baked with you, would you be happy to nibble on that instead of what's on the bar counter? He said, yeah. And that was one of the things that had the biggest impact on his weight loss.
Really? Wow. Okay, so such a simple measures.
He was a daily regular. Yeah.
Okay, so just hooving up those cocktail sausages, which are full of...
So if I was an asshole, I would have gone through all the science behind why alcohol is bad and all the metabolic effects it can have and blah, 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 blah. And he would have just left thinking I was an asshole and wouldn't have changed anything. But glossed over that. It's like, right, here's what we can do. Keep it simple. Let's do this. And it worked.
Wow. Okay. So that's again, goes back to your method, really. You're not trying to totally change their lifestyle drastically. It has to be a softly, easily achievable goals.
Yes. There's a very good reason for that as well, Jamie. Self-efficacy and someone's own opinion of whether or not they can do things, that really is important for long-term success. So for example, if you were a client and I was like, right, Jamie, week 1, what we need to do, here's your macros, hit them yourself. That'll frazzle you. You won't do that. That's that's out of reach. You'll fail week 1, get disheartened, see how far you have to go and say, not doing this. There's no point. Parallels can be drawn with everyone, and that was only an example, obviously. I'm sure you do fine, but you know what I mean?
I didn't take it personally.
You have to assess the person. So someone who drinks 2 pints a day and has done since their wife died 5 years ago, you're not taking away their only social outlet. The psychological ramifications of that far outweigh the physiological benefits of it. So that you have to find a compromise. And it's all about thinking and understanding the person as well. So that's where a little bit of psychology comes into place, behavior change. And like, to be honest, it's a skill as well as an art, you know, or it's an art and a skill as much as it is a science. So that's something that I'm getting better at. Like, I know I'm still pretty young. Like, I mean, my first couple of clients, like, I used to look a lot younger, even like 2 years ago. So you see someone like me saying, look, you need to stop drinking, and like, I'm younger than their children, you know, it doesn't always go down well. So I have to kind of learn how to compromise and like deal and coach properly, I suppose, from like the offset. Otherwise, no one would listen to me.
Yeah, which is fair enough. And you've got a young baby now, right?
12 weeks old.
So I mean, that's definitely going to add a couple of years to your face. So
actually, I have me and my partner Emma. We've coached her well already. She only wakes up once a night on average.
Wow.
At 7 o'clock in the morning.
That's incredible. Wow, for 12 weeks. Wow.
Has been like this for about 6 weeks.
Wow, fair play. How have you managed that?
Routine.
Yeah.
Drop the interaction in the evening time. Don't be as kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
Give her a bath. Little psychological cues that it's bedtime, it's sleep time now.
Yeah.
All lights go down, no noise, no stimulus. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. And
fair play.
I suppose having a bit of knowledge about chronotypes and like body clock psychology, you know, physiology helped as well. This is good for adults too if you have problem sleeping. Like, pretty bright out there today. Like, first thing in the morning, what I do, and I document it on Instagram at Lynch Fitness, by the way, if anyone is looking. Drop it in.
No, it looks like
I'll go outside with a coffee, and I'll take my glasses off, and I'll just get like direct sunlight onto my eyelids. So what happens then is that goes through my retina into my photoreceptors, straight to my suprachiasmatic nucleus in my hypothalamus, and it tells my brain, oh, morning time. This is the time to wake up.
Yeah.
And the coffee gets a little bit of a cortisol spike, which isn't a bad thing. Basically, do that first thing in the morning. You're reinforcing your body clock to kind of have those physiological and hormonal responses to getting up, and that can help fix your body clock for the rest of the day, basically, because it's a diurnal thing. You get cortisol spikes in the morning, you get a melatonin spike at around dusk in the evening time, maybe 10 p.m. It kind of peaks out, I think. So if you can force a cortisol spike first thing by sunlight, coffee, first thing, maybe some exercise in the morning and a larger calorie intake before maybe 2 p.m., you have a much better chance of sleeping properly at night.
I've just published a blog actually about sleeping as well, and one of the tricks, I typically would sleep okay, but I would sleep quite late, and then I found I was constantly waking up tired. I think I've been working I've been working a lot anyway, but one of the tricks I've gone with now is that so your melatonin levels, because of the phones we have and the blue light, are drastically reduced to what they used to be, and ultimately what they should be. So much so, I was even so when in bed I would be reading stuff on my phone, for whether it be on Twitter or whether it be articles, just as information, because I thought this is a good way for me to read and keep up to date with for things like this, etc. But I know after doing reading and research, I've seen then the impact that can really have on your melatonin levels. So it end up taking much longer for me to properly get into the right pattern of sleep. So I've been doing this for a week now, but this week has been incredible for how I've woken up, because so I'll go to bed typically now at midnight instead of 1 o'clock, and no phone. And I'll have a book. So instead, I'll just read a book for maybe 45 minutes. Then I'll fall asleep naturally, maybe within half an hour or 15 minutes if it's a boring book. And now I'm waking up earlier. So I'm waking up now at 8 in the morning, feeling so much more refreshed. So much so where I'm like, do you know what? I'm going to now work. So I never used to work out in the morning. I used to hate it. I'm like, it'd be a real struggle for me. Even like doing, especially doing any power exercises. But now this week I've just been absolutely nailing it. I've been like, wow, okay, I wake up, roll straight out of bed, not even snoozing, just kind of cracking on, And it's just a small tweak, but it really has made massive difference. Just cognitively, my ability to recover and therefore want to do more. So it's it's just kind of unreal, like the impact of sunlight and your melatonin and serotonin levels.
Here's an interesting one for you. You can add to your regimen for sleeping. Caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours, right? So if you have a cup of coffee at about 6 o'clock in the evening, which is 80 mgs of caffeine, there's still 40 in your system at midnight that night. So I'm good with coffee. I mean, I max out at 3 coffees a day. I mean, strong coffees. If you can switch to decaf after like 2 o'clock in the day, you'll sleep a lot better.
Yeah, I just try and smash my coffees in before 12, and then I'm good.
Yeah,
because
that's the way to do it.
Because decaf, I'm sorry, it tastes like badass.
It's not great.
No, it's
well,
horrible.
Decaf tea is okay if you like tea.
Okay.
The decaf tea is fine. Decaf coffee is stink. I would be a coffee snob now as well, and I wouldn't drink decaf coffee. It's not nice.
No.
But even that extends to Coca-Cola, energy drinks, chocolate even has caffeine in it.
Yeah.
Limiting those things at night time will help sleep.
Good tip.
And there's a difference between, as you definitely know if you've researched it, sleep duration and sleep quality. So waking up tired is a pretty good sign your sleep architecture isn't what it should be.
Yeah.
Probably influenced by caffeine, stress, blue light exposure late at night, not having an exercise regimen or kind of consistent with bedtimes. And like, I know about this because it's relevant to nutrition and sports performance, because diet can affect it and it can affect diet. If you don't sleep, you don't recover, you don't build. So there's no point in laying guidelines for protein intake or creatine supplementation or recovery protocols. It doesn't matter anyway. If you don't sleep properly, you're not physically capable of recovering. And on that, if a client says they have bad sleep, like that's in my screening forms, I ask them about their sleep. If they have crappy sleep, they're much less resilient against cravings, just kind of going for crap food, not putting in any effort. They're more likely to fail, and it's actually linked with increased weight, cortisol levels, cholesterol levels, diabetes risk, and cancer.
What's your view on intermittent fasting? Because it's quite prevalent at the moment. There's been some science behind it to highlight its benefits. But what's your view on that? If you're willing to share.
If it suits the person's lifestyle, it would suit my lifestyle. I would happily just drink coffee for the first 3 hours I'm awake, and then like spend 6 hours in the middle of the day eating. It can have a degree of benefit in terms of it promotes autophagy, or your cells to repair themselves. But it's not feasible for most people to do it because that requires a 16 to 20 hour fast, which it's not really integratable into like my life, for example, where training and business and family not applicable. For athletes, really stupid thing to do. There's nothing smart about de-optimizing your protein intake and kind of missing out on post-training recovery windows just so you can like stick to a nutrition camp.
Interesting.
If it fits the person's lifestyle, I would say belt away. But for most people, the biggest reason it works is because you just have less time to eat. That's it. That's essentially it.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's like, eat your dinner now and stop.
It's like, oh shit, the time's... Okay, fair enough. Right, that's for tomorrow.
Most diets package the same thing in a different way. They package eating more fruit and veg, healthier protein, having a better awareness of your health, maybe exercising more because you're on a diet and doing things because you're on a diet, but they just package it in a different message. Veganism, you cut out all processed things in general, and maybe you get a little bit political. Vegetarianism, you're definitely going to cut out like deep fried things, fried products. You're being pushed more towards just consuming like almost only vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds. That's really conducive to weight loss. Paleo, anything with a wrapper, good luck and thanks. You're just not left with much to play with. And same thing with ketogenic diets. It's the same. They just cut out kind of Western staple foods and our biggest crutches, and it's just they're not in the rule book, so you kind of just don't go near them.
Yeah, I see.
It's not really sustainable, because you're going to be paleo for 6 days a week, and then you're just normal for that like 2 hours where it doesn't suit you to be paleo. You're going to have a crack in your own kind of, I wouldn't call it a moral compass, but belief system, you know. It's not something that you're going to do forever, so why kind of have like an on and off approach when you can just make one, I suppose, flexible, consistent dietary approach.
Yeah, nice. Okay, brilliant. And before we start wrapping up and stuff, it'd be good to get, if you're willing to share, like a couple of meal tips, like maybe like a nice lunch someone can prepare today or tomorrow, even, because this goes out on Tuesday. So what can they? A lot of people are working from home at the moment. So if I'm at home, what's an easy yet healthy and balanced meal for me to prepare?
Probably what I'm going to have as soon as I get off the phone is a homemade pizza.
Ooh, okay.
So wholemeal wrap.
Yes.
Table,
yeah.
Tomato puree, low-fat mozzarella, cut up a pepper and some chicken in the oven or under the grill. 10 minutes. Done. Take her out. Sprinkle of parsley and extra virgin olive oil, and there you go.
Job
15
done.
minutes.
Yeah, nice.
Super easy. My other go-to snack would be a pot of quark or skyr yogurt with a couple of chia seeds, flax seeds, and frozen blueberries. Takes 2 minutes to make.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to make it, you just put things in the same pot and you get a spoon. It's really tasty, actually.
Yeah.
Those would be my kind of two biggest things. I'm a very lazy cook, to be honest. Like, my other real go-to meal would be, I'll just put a piece of salmon on a pan, dry fry it, put some asparagus, peppers, and baby corn on the other side of the pan. They cook at the same time. Bag of microwave whole grain rice into the microwave. 5 minutes, dinner is ready.
Dry fry. So I know I've seen a couple of your Instagram posts about dry frying, and because I'm a big fan of using extra virgin olive oil, but I know it changes over a certain heat, right? So what do you know about that?
So extra virgin olive oil, it has a smoke point near 200 degrees Celsius, but the contact heat of most pans on conduction hobs can be like well over 300 or 400 degrees. So unless you're sauteing all your food, it's not really appropriate to use oils, especially oils that have a high degree of unsaturated fatty acids in them, because what will happen is they're very unstable molecules in general. They break down into peroxides, and this is what an unsaturated fatty acids looks like from a molecular configuration point of view. When it reaches its smoke point, it does this. It becomes a trans fatty acid, right? Have you ever heard of a trans fat? Do you know what that means?
No, I don't think so, no.
So trans fats are like, there's very few things that humans eat that we can definitively say are absolutely bad for you. Trans fats are absolutely terrible for you. What they will do is basal inflammation goes straight up. They suppress HDL cholesterol, or your good cholesterol production, promote LDL levels to just rise, and they make you insulin resistant temporarily. Trans fats are super bad for you.
Wow. So where would you normally find trans fats?
In deep fried products.
Fried
products.
Right.
Or baked goods as well.
Really? So no pastizzis?
Limited pastizzis. Mush kulyum.
Okay, nice. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And so in terms of your, if people want to get hold of you, well, actually, no, before that, where are your clients typically based? And if people want to reach out to you, know, for further help, I mean, are you just limited to Ireland and Malta? Or?
God, no. So what I do is I work in an online coaching manner. Like, I live in the south of Ireland, but most of my clients, they don't live within 200 miles of me. They're from Northern Ireland, the UK, the US, Dublin, a couple from Malta. So all I need is an internet connection, your email address, and maybe a WhatsApp or Skype handle, and then we can chat. That's it. That's all you need.
Nice.
Effective coaching is just about communication. I actually, for the first time ever, I have a waiting list of people getting this, like, looking to come on board, which is
nice.
You know, it's amazing. I've been kind of building this for about 4 years now, and you know, it's at a stage now where it's a full-time job, and instead of people wondering like, God, what's fit enough, there's people like waiting to join the FitNut team. It's kind of, I'm waking up pinching myself.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
if anyone is listening, they're thinking about coming on board, go on to Instagram at elynchfitnut, ELYNCHFITNUT. Slide into the DMs or click the link to sign up for online coaching. If you do it today or in the next few days, you'd probably be put on a waiting list for 1 or 2 weeks. And I'll aim to get in touch with you and have a conversation or a video call as soon as. I like to kick off all my online coaching with a little bit of human interaction because it's a personal thing.
Yeah.
And then we'll get you started. But yeah, anywhere in the world, if you speak English, it definitely helps. My small degree of Maltese can help. If you're French, I speak fluent French as well. So bienvenue. Yeah, so you can email me at, can you put like my...
Yeah, I'll put the links. Yeah, I'll put the links on the on Spotify and on our YouTube channel as well. So,
great. So like my email and website and everything else are like down there.
Yeah.
Or over there or somewhere. Not 100% sure, but you get the gist. If you are interested, get in touch. Get on the FitNut team. Pretty successful team, if I do say so myself.
I mean, the level of detail you've gone into and is unreal, and being able to explain things and in more of a layman's term, in layman's terms, really, I think will just help people, because you've clearly got the evidence based. You know what you're saying at the beginning. There's there's nutritionists out there that will say, okay, do this. You know, go down a keto diet, or go down a you know, you need to be vegan, or you've got IBS. You know, these types of things, which are pretty basic when you're comparing that to the level of depth you're going into. So it's basically it's night and day. It really is night and day. So hopefully this will spark a few people's minds, just to be like, okay, actually, I need to now really think about doing this. But I think the common thing you'd always say is that people need to be moving, right? They need to be exercising as well. It's not just about diet.
Definitely, if possible.
Which is great.
So someone like Dan is, you know, I still work with Dan a little bit. How I know him as well is we were doing a master's degree together in Malta, which I had to leave, and I was working in his gym, and we were kind of getting ready to take over Malta and the fitness industry there. So I work with Dan. I work with some coaches here in Ireland. I work with Athletics Ireland, Cycling Ireland, and Dublin City University.
Wow.
So those are I work alongside these people, because it's not, you know, I can't do everything. I can do a lot, but I need like some expertise in S&C, personal training. That goes an awful long way alongside what I do to help people get where they need to be. So it's definitely teamwork makes the dream work, you know?
Yeah, nice. I like it. And I mean, Daniel, I caught up with him yesterday actually, and so as you may know, or maybe some viewers that listen to YouTube, or even the listeners on Spotify, you may have noticed an absence of my co-host Stephen, and so he's just not available for a little while. I will put it out there. I promise. I didn't make him do that backflip after Daniel's interview. That's not the reason he's not here. I promise. But he will be in and around as and when he's available. But one of the things we are now thinking about doing, just to give me a bit of company. I mean, for whoever's watching this on YouTube, it's a bit lonely up here. I'm just like, I've got space for a team, and it's just me. So we are now thinking about bringing on some guest co-hosts, with Daniel being one, and a few others, Denise potentially being one as well as Stephen. So just to add a level of medical or kind of fitness, add a perspective for that side as well. So hopefully you'll be able to see a bit more of Daniel than you have been up on here. So but I did say to him, look, we may be talking about ayahuasca, so you're going to be ready. So I said I'll try and taint him a little bit. But yeah, honestly, man, this has been really, 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 really insightful. And when I first met you, and when we first had the conversation, I reached out to you. I knew I had that really good feeling. I knew it would be. So it'd be.
Thank you.
I'll be kind of keeping an eye out for you and sharing everything I can on YouTube and Twitter.
Appreciate that.
And by all means, stay in touch. We'd love to kind of maybe kind of see your progress.
Definitely.
Maybe get you back on before 2021 Olympics.
I think if you wanted to do a nutrition Q&A in a few months' time, just asking people if any questions or vlogging, whatever comes up, that might be an interesting thing to do.
Yeah, we can maybe do a live show. Yeah, I think this is the
definitely.
This is the beauty of what we're trying to create with Dose, is that we're still super early in informing this, and I think the message is that we just really want to get people to think for themselves, unplug from what they're being told or being spammed, what's being thrown at them. Is actually, do a bit of research yourself, or listen and question things, and then you can then build your own knowledge through channels like this or others. So I think we're just trying to provide real information from real people. So this is really helpful. It's really been useful. So I really appreciate your time. I know you said you missed a client by mistake, so you probably need to run.
I'll get back from there in a minute.
And
the others.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And really good to see you. And I'll no doubt see you for a Q&A session sometime soon.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it, man.
Brilliant. All the best.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
Cheers, Evan. All the best. Cheers, man.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So I also want to make a just very quick announcement. One of our wonderful guests from the last season, Rachel Holway, she sent me a message last night with regards to a big charity hamper her and a number of local businesses are doing for the Richmond Foundation Fund, because next week is Mental Health Awareness Week, and what they are doing, they're putting together, I don't have the list in front of me, but there's going to be a free Pilates class. There's going to be free food from Fuel & Co. She's going to kill me because there's so many more things to do, but it's all just for €5. So a €5 raffle will give you access to so much, loads of goodies, basically. Everyone likes goodies. And it's probably, I think the value of this is close to €150 just for €5. And all the proceeds are going to go to the Richmond Foundation Fund to allow them to be able to support all the people on the island that need help, especially when we're all being quarantined at the moment or having to isolate. And there's been a huge increase in challenges around mental health and suicide, not rates but potential suicides. So we as a nation really need to kind of support what they're trying to do, and this money will go towards being able to put more people on the phones to be able to help more people in the time of need. So please do go on her Facebook page, which is Reach 100. I'll also put a link on the on this podcast with Evan, just so you can go on and support it. It's €5 for 150, at least €150 worth of goodies, and it's all for a good cause. So please do go and support it. Thanks, guys. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, whether it be in your ears or using your eyes on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, please do subscribe and share this with everyone. If you're on Spotify, please do again subscribe and keep downloading. And ultimately, feedback. We want to feedback and understand more. What you want to hear of, what's good, what's not, so we can continually improve. And we do, as I said at the beginning, we do now have an amazing new sponsor called O'Black. Totally love their brand and their message. And they have been, and we're lucky enough to have a discount code. So if you want a beautiful hat like this, you can see it if you're on YouTube. Otherwise, check out the Dosed_podcast Instagram page. For one of these caps, if you go onto their website and use the promo code DOSED15, DOSED 15, you can get a awesome discount on these awesome caps. There will be giveaways coming as well later in the series, but so stay tuned, and I'll see you guys soon.